everyone, it's Crochet by Beb. Welcome to my channel. Hope you are doing fine today. For this video tutorial, we're going to make this sweater. This sweater is made to measure, so you can decide how wide you would like for your sweater and how long. And you can customize how long you would like for the sleeves. The stitch pattern is very simple. I use a lot this stitch pattern, the cluster V stitch. It's a 1 row repeat, and the borders are single crochet into the back loop and slip stitch into the back loop. For your reference, my sweater is 20 inches wide or 51 centimeter and 18 inches long, 46 centimeters, and the sleeves 16 inches long, 40.5 centimeters. So you can decide how wide, long you would like for your sweater. Okay, so this is only for your reference. For the materials, I use 2 colors of acrylic yarn. I will put how many grams each color I use, and tape measure. I use 4.5 millimeter hook, scissors, yarn needle, and 2 stitch markers. Alright, so hope you will enjoy making your sweater. You can tag me in my Instagram at Crochet by Beb if you would like to share your work with me. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you will be notified for more videos. So let's start. So first, make a small swatch and measure that. We're going to start making a foundation row, which is the foundation chainless single crochet. Sometimes the foundation row or the chainless single crochet is more stretchy than the usual stitch pattern. So it's important you can start with a swatch and then measure that so you will know how many stitches you will need for your desired width for your sweater. Okay, so this is my first panel done, and I started here a foundation chainless single crochet, 79 stitches, and this is 20 inches wide. So this is my desired wide to make my sweater. Okay, so this is 20 inches wide. So first make a small swatch and then measure that. So when you are measuring your swatch, you can leave this 1 stitch because our stitch pattern is a multiple of 3 plus 1. Okay, so when you are measuring your swatch, just leave your plus 1 and then measure the rest of the stitches and then count how many stitches you will need for your desired wide. Okay, so for me this is 79 stitches, or I started here 79 foundation chainless single crochet. Okay, alright, so I'm going to show you first how to do the foundation chainless single crochet. So our stitch pattern is a multiple of 3 plus 1, but if you would like to start your foundation row making a chain first, your stitch pattern will be a multiple of 3 plus 2. Okay, then second chain from your hook, start your single crochet, and then it should be a multiple of 3 plus 1, your final stitches, count of stitches. Alright, so our stitch pattern, again, when you are using foundation chainless single crochet, your stitch pattern should be a multiple of 3 plus 1, but if you would like to start with a chains, your stitch pattern will be a multiple of 3 plus 2. Then second chain from your hook, you start your single crochet. Okay, so let's start making the foundation row. So make a slip knot and then chain 2. Then insert your hook into your first chain. Then grab a yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over, pull through 2. Your first single crochet done. Okay, so again insert your hook in these 2 loops at the bottom. This is the stitches you are making down, so these stitches here. So insert there your hook, grab a yarn, pull through 1 to make the chains here, and then pull through 2. Okay, so this is how you do your foundation chainless single crochet. Insert hook into these 2 loops at the bottom, grab a yarn, pull through 1, pull through 2. Insert hook these 2 loops, grab a yarn, pull through 1, pull through 2. Insert hook, grab a yarn, pull through 1, pull through 2. Okay, so we're going to repeat this until you reach the desired width for your sweater, or first to make your swatch. Okay, so I'm going to continue this until my 79 stitches, since I already done my first panel, so I already know how many stitches I will need to do for my second panel. So we're going to make 2 of these panels the same. So I'm going to continue making my foundation single crochet, and then coming back to show you how to do the stitch pattern. This is the cluster V stitch, and it's the same stitches from my previous videos. If you know those vest and cardigan that I made from my previous videos, it's the same stitch pattern. Okay, so I'm going to continue first this and coming back to show you the next stitch pattern. Alright, so I'm done my foundation chainless single crochet, and I'm going to show you how to do the stitch pattern, the cluster V stitch. Okay, first make a 2 chains. These 2 chains doesn't count as a stitch throughout. Okay, and then turn. Then into your first stitch, make a double crochet, and then skip 2 stitches, and then into the next stitch make the cluster V stitch. So cluster V stitch is 2 double crochet together, chain 2, 2 double crochet together. Okay, so skip 2, then into the next cluster V stitch. So double crochet together, chain 2, then another double crochet together, 2 double crochet together. Okay, so this is our first cluster V stitch, and then skip 2 again, continue making cluster V stitch. Okay, so skip 2 into the next stitch, cluster V stitch. Cluster V stitch, make a double crochet 2 together, chain 2, double crochet 2 together. I'm not sure if you call it double crochet 2 together or 2 double crochet together. I think it's the same. Okay, so continue making cluster V stitch into the stitches. So just skip 2, then cluster V stitch. Okay, again skip 2, cluster V stitch. So you're going to repeat this until the end of your last 3 stitches. So here last 3 stitches, 1 2 last 4 stitches I mean. So make your cluster V stitch, and then here into the last stitch you're going to make 1 double crochet. Okay, so continue first your cluster V stitch, and then here into your last 3 stitches skip 2, then last stitch 1 double crochet to match here at the beginning, 1 double crochet. Okay, so continue your cluster V stitch. Okay, so this is my first row. So what I'm saying there is these last 3 stitches, so skip these 2, then double crochet here, then your first row done. And then to continue, you're going to make a chain 2 again, then turn. So always doesn't count as a stitch, this chain 2. Okay, then double crochet into your first stitch. Then now we're going to work our cluster V stitch into the chain 2 spaces here, the chain 2. Okay, so cluster V stitch here into the chain 2 space, chain 2, then double crochet 2 together. Okay, then into the chain 2 space work your cluster V stitch. So this pattern is very simple and less mind to work. So cluster V stitch, double crochet 2 together, and chain 2, double crochet 2 together. Okay, so work this into your chain 2 spaces to continue, and then again here into the last stitch work 1 double crochet. Okay, so it's going to look like this: 1 double crochet here, and then into the last stitch 1 double crochet. Okay, so we're cluster V stitch into the chain 2 spaces, and then later I'm going to show you how to change color. So I change my colors every 4 rows. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I change color in this nature white. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then another 4 rows again in this color. Then I going to change. So as you can see here, I didn't cut and insert my yarn every changing of colors. I just carried it up my handwork yarn here at this side. So this is how it gonna look like. So I'm going to show you how to do this also. Okay, so I will continue my cluster V stitch in this row. So 3 more rows, and then I'm going to change for this color and show you how to do it. So continue cluster V stitch into the chain 2 spaces, and then 1 single crochet in the end. Okay, so I'm about now to change color. As you can see here, your first rows, it's a bit curvy, but later it will stretch straight when you do more rows. So I'm going to change color here. So I'm going to make 1 double crochet here, and before finishing this, I'm going to insert now my white yarn. Insert, and I'm going to carry my handwork yarn, which is the yellow and the tail. So I'm going to put like this, and then make a chain 2 to continue, then turn. So chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch. So again, double crochet into the first stitch and continue cluster V stitch into the chain 2 space. So as easy like that, how to change color and carry up the handwork yarn. So I'm going to show you again later how to do it. Okay, so continue your cluster V stitch into the chain 2 spaces and 1 double crochet into your last stitch. Okay, so just continue your stitches. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to carry the handwork yarn here at this side. So I'm now using my swatch yarn, so it make it faster. So here into the last stitch, so I'm about now to change color into white. So here into the last stitch, put your double crochet and change into white. So I'm going to carry this and put like this around my hook, and then double crochet. So I'm going to change here, so put like this your yarn, and then grab your next yarn to change and finish your double crochet, and then chain 2. You can do also here just to carry up the handwork yarn, and then turn, then continue your double crochet into the first stitch and cluster V stitch into the chain 2 space. Okay, so as easy like that to change color and carry up the handwork yarn. Okay, so I'm going to show you again once more later. So I'm just continue this. Okay, so once more I'm going to show you how to carry the handwork yarn. So here into the last stitch, I'm going to work the double crochet. So I'm going to put the handwork yarn or the carried yarn here, and then work your double crochet. Then chain 2, just put the handwork yarn like this, wrap it around, and then make your stitch, turn, and then double crochet again. Continue stitch pattern. Okay, so as you see like that, how to carry up your handwork yarn, so it's going to look like that. Okay, so I'm going to work my panel, this second panel, until I reach the neckline part. I'm going to explain it to you again how to do this, or I'm going to show you. So here, before I finish my rows, at least 2 inches. Before finishing your rows, at least 2 inches, we're going to work the neckline or the shoulder part. Okay, so this is 2 inches, as you can see, at least 2 inches. So this is 1 to 4 rows for me. It depends your yarn you are using. Maybe you are using a chunkier yarn, so maybe you need to do 3 or 2 more rows. So for me, this is 4 rows and 2 inches. Okay, so before finishing your rows, before 2 inches, and then we're going to work the neckline or the shoulder part. Okay, so for your reference, my sweater, I want it to be 18 inches long. So this is my desired long I want for my sweater, okay? So it's up to you. You can do it longer or make it crop in your desired long for your sweater. So here, 18 inches. As you can see here, there is 1.5 inches allowance. This is the allowance I give for my ribbing. So I'm going to make my ribbing later, and this is the ribbing that I want to make later. Okay, so continue making your stitch pattern, and at least 2 inches here before finishing your desired length of your sweater. We're going to work the neckline or the shoulder part. So I'm going to show you how to do the decrease here. Okay, so this is only 2 inches, and this is 4 rows only. So it depends, if you are using a chunkier yarn, maybe it's less rows, but you can adjust also. Okay, so this is 4 rows and 2 inches, so 18 inches long total my sweater, and I gave here 1.5 allowance. So before my decrease in the neckline, it's 16 inches. Okay, so I'm going to continue my panel here for 16 inches, and then I'm going to work the neckline and show you. Okay, so 4 rows of this color, and then 4 rows for the next color, and then change again, as you can see here. Alright, so I'm going to continue now my second panel, and then showing you later here how to do the decrease for the neckline. My decrease in the neckline and shoulder. So this is a total of 26 rows. I'm going to show you how to do the decrease. So first, divide your stitches or the wide of your panel into 3. So mine is, I put 6.5 here and then 6.5 in this side, you can see. But if you would like the neckline a bit wider or open, you can make this wider than these 2 sides. Okay, but for me, I put this less. This is only 6 or 6.5 also, because I made the decrease, and this is now more open. And later we're going to add the borders, so it will more close. But if you would like the neckline a bit wider, you can less this side and also the other side. Okay, I'm going to show you first how to do the decrease in this first side, then we continue in this part. So as usual here, we're going to make the chain 2, then turn. So as usual, your stitch pattern, it's the same to start. Okay, so here in my last chain 2 space, I'm just going to put 2 double crochet together. Now I'm going to make the decrease. So chain 2 and turn. And then here into the first stitch, make 1 double crochet. Then here into your first chain 2 space, make only 2 double crochet together. It's look like that. And then continue into the next chain space, work your cluster V stitch. And then continue your stitch pattern, and then again I'm going to show you how to do the next decrease. So it's going to look like that. So here in the first, we did the 2 double crochet together only in here into the last chain 2 space, and into the next row work 1 double crochet into the first stitch, and into the first chain 2 space work only 2 double crochet together, and jump into the next chain 2 space, work your cluster V stitch, and continue your stitch pattern. Okay, so here in my last 2 chain 2 space, work your cluster V stitch, and then as you can see in this double crochet 2 together and 1 double crochet, we're going to work double crochet 2 together in these last 2 stitches. Okay, so 1 in here, and then another in this last stitch to make our 2 double crochet together. Okay, and into the next row again, work the same like this. So chain 2, turn, and into the first stitch work only 1 double crochet, and into the next chain 2 space work only 1 double crochet 2 together. Okay, and then continue your stitch pattern into the chain 2 spaces. And this is now my last row, so I'm going to finish this. And into your first panel, you can leave a long tail, just enough to sew the panels together later. Okay, so this is now my last row, so I did only 4 rows to make the shoulder or for the neckline decrease. Okay, so I'm going to finish this, and then I'm going to show you how to do the decrease also in this side. Okay, all right, so now we're going to continue in this side. So put your yarn here or insert your yarn in the same side or direction of the stitches. So this is the direction of my stitches, so I'm going to insert my yarn here and continue. So here I'm going to chain 2 and then double crochet. So this look like the double crochet 2 together, the same here, and then continue your cluster V stitch into the chain 2 spaces. Then I'm going to show you how to do the decrease in the next row here. Okay, so in this part, I'm going to make the last chain 2 space double crochet 2 together. So it's the same in this side. So you just look at it, what it's here. Into the last chain 2 space, work double crochet 2 together and 1 double crochet into the last stitch. And 1 double crochet into the last stitch. Okay, so don't forget to change yarn. So here we're going to chain 2 and then turn, and then into the first 2 stitches work double crochet together, and then continue the stitch pattern, and into the last row work double crochet 2 together into the chain 2 space again, then 1 double crochet into the last stitch. Okay, so now I'm going to finish this. Okay, so here in the last row, work into the last chain 2 space, double crochet 2 together and 1 double crochet into the last stitch. Then just chain 1 and then cut yarn, and we are done with the first panel. Okay, so continue making your next panel or your second panel, and then we're going to sew the panels together. Alright, so when you are done your 2 panels, now we're going to sew them together. First, put your first panel into the good side or right side out. So the stitch pattern is reversible, so you can decide where is your good side or wrong side. So this is my right side. I prefer my first row, the stitches are in the right side. So this is my right side. And then your second panel, put the right side down, so the right side are facing. Now we're going to start sewing first the shoulder and then the sides. For the side, we're going to discuss first or decide first for our sleeves opening, so we'll know how long we're going to sew in this side. So first, sew these shoulders first. So I'm going to use my long tail here. So I'm going to use my yarn needle to sew the panels together. So just whip stitch. Alright, so I'm done sewing the shoulders. I'm going to sew now the sides. So first, decide how wide or open you would like for your sleeves. So for me, I do 7 inches regularly or 7.5. It's up to you. If you would like a thinner sleeves, you can do also 6.5, 6 inches. It's up to you, okay? So for me, 7 inches from the shoulder down here. I put my marker so I know where to stop to sew my sides, and also in the other part, so 7 inches. And then I'm going to use my yarn needle and start here or there. And here, as you can see, there is the carried and work yarn. Try to hide when you're sewing this side so it's not really visible in the right side. Okay, so I'm going to use my yarn needle. Alright, so when you are done sewing the side, now I'm going to show you how to make the sleeve. So I directly attached and did my first sleeve, as you can see. So I work the same stitch pattern. Now I'm going to show you how to do. So just attach here at the corner, and it's the same stitch pattern. We're going to start with chain 2, doesn't count as a stitch, and then double crochet here into the first space. So as you can see, there is no regular stitches on the sides. So what we're gonna do is we're going to look the distance where we're going to put the cluster V stitch. In my case, I put 2 cluster V stitch in every 3 sides or 3 rows. You can see 1, 2, 3, 3 rows. So here 2 cluster V stitch, and here 1, 2, 3, 2 cluster V stitch. That's what I did in my sleeves. So you can see in your stitches when you do your cluster V stitch if it's too far or too compressed your cluster V stitch when you are putting it here on the sides. So I'm going to put in these 3 rows 2 cluster V stitch. So it's the same stitch pattern, okay? Cluster V stitch. Then into the beginning and last, do your 1 double crochet. Okay, so I'm going to continue this all the way around, and then into the last stitch 1 double crochet, and then we're going to slip stitch here into our first stitch, then chain 2 and turn. Okay, so we're going to work around and then turn. Continue. Okay, so put 1 double crochet into your last space. So I have a total of 18 cluster V stitch around. So now we're going to slip stitch here into the first stitch. That's a slip stitch, and then chain 2, turn. So now we're going to work at the wrong side or the back of our panel, and then it's the same stitch pattern, double crochet into the first stitch and cluster V stitch into the chain 2 spaces. Okay, and then when you reach in the end, just slip stitch again into your first stitch, chain 2, and then turn. Okay, so always turn your work every after row. So always turn your work, okay, to follow the stitch pattern. Alright, so continue making your sleeves. And then here I'm going to show you how to do the decrease. So before making your last 4 rows, we're going to make the decrease, okay? Last 4 rows and your desired length of your sleeves. So this is my desired length, a total of 16 inches long, including the ribbing. So it's 14.5 please. So here, before finishing my rows, in my 4 rows, I made the decrease, okay? So I'm going to continue this, and then I'm going to show you again once more how to attach your rows together and then continue to make the next row. Okay, so here I made my 1 double crochet. So to attach, just slip stitch here into your first stitch and then chain 2, doesn't count as a stitch, okay? Then turn and then continue again into your next row, your first stitch, 1 double crochet and cluster V stitch into the chain 2 spaces, okay? And then again, when you reach here, just slip stitch, chain 2, turn, then continue stitch pattern. Alright, so continue making your sleeves until you reach the desired length of your sleeve. And before finishing your rows into your last 4 rows, we're going to do the decrease and then the ribbing. Okay, continue. Alright, so now I'm in my last 4 rows. I'm going to show you how to do the decrease. So what I did here in my last 4 rows, in these 3 rows I made the cluster V stitch, and into the next chain 2 space I made only double crochet 2 together. So I just alternated in these 3 rows, and then the last row I made the same but only 1 chain, the cluster V stitch. Okay, so I'm going to show you here. So slip stitch here, then I'm going to chain 2, then here into the first stitch just make your double crochet, and I'm going to work here in my first stitch 1 double crochet together, and then into the next chain 2 space cluster V stitch, the double crochet 2 together, chain 2, then double crochet 2 together, and then into the next chain 2 space only 1 double crochet together. Okay, so we're going to alternate this all the way around till we reach here into the last chain 2 space and put 1 double crochet into the last stitch also. Okay, alright, so I'm done my first decrease row, and then into the next 2 rows we're going to do the same. We're going to slip stitch here into the first stitch and then chain 2, turn, and then into the first stitch double crochet, and into the same chain 2 space we work double crochet 2 together, chain 2, double crochet 2 together, the cluster V stitch, and then on top of the chain 2 space work only double crochet together. Okay, so we'll just do the same for the next 2 rows, and then into our last 1 row we're going to decrease the chain 2 space into only 1. Okay, so continue into your next 2 rows doing this decrease, and then into the last row we're going to decrease 1 chain. Okay, continue. Okay, so here into the last row we're going to work the same but in only 1 chain into the cluster V stitch. Okay, so double crochet here, and here into the cluster V stitch we work double crochet together, then only chain 1 and then double crochet together. Okay, so the cluster V stitch, double crochet together, chain 1, double crochet together. Okay, and then into the top of double crochet together also work double crochet together. Okay, chain 1 here and then double crochet together. Okay, so we're going to continue this all the way around, and then this is the last row, and then we're going to work the ribbing for the sleeves. So this is slip stitch into the back loop only. So it's going to look like this. Okay, if you are going to use the same color, we're not going to cut the yarn, we're just continuing making the ribbing. Okay, so I'm done my decrease here in my last 4 rows. Now I'm going to show you how to make the ribbing. So here in my ribbing, I made it slip stitch into the back loop only. This is 8 stitches, so I'm going to chain 9. It's up to you how long you would like your ribbing. If you would like a longer one, you can add more into your chain. So into the second chain from your hook, we're going to slip stitch. And just slip stitch into all the chains. So we are working into the right side of the panel. Okay, so here into the next stitch, we're going to slip stitch. So I'm going to skip this since I start here into the chain 2 space. So I'm going to slip stitch here into my second stitch, and then slip stitch into the next stitch, and then turn, and then into the back loop of your stitches. This we're going to work slip stitch. So make sure you're going to work into the first stitch here. So just count 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So I have 8 stitches. So don't be confused with your slip stitch here. So back loop is here, and then just slip stitch. So when you're doing your slip stitch, just loosen up a bit your tension, so it's not very difficult for you to insert your hook when you do the next row. Okay, so just slip stitch, then chain 1 and turn, then again slip stitch into the back loop only. If you prefer the single crochet into the back loop, you can do that also. But I just want to achieve the slant of the ribbing here into my sleeves. Okay, so just loosen up a bit your tension. Then just slip stitch into the next stitch. So here we have the chain 1 space, so we're going to slip stitch here, then slip stitch into the next stitch, and then turn, and then continue slip stitch into the back loop. Okay, so we're going to do this all the way around into the stitches. So remember, you have your chain 1 here, so include that as your stitch also. Okay, so we're going to do this all the way around. Then when you are done, just join the end together or just sew it together using your yarn needle and fasten up your yarn, and we are done the ribbing. So it's just easy like that. It's just slip stitch into the back loop only all the way around. But if you prefer the single crochet into the back loop, you can do that also. Alright, so I'm going to finish my sleeve and then coming back to show you how to do the hem part. Alright, so I'm done the sleeves. This is how it looks like, the ribbing. Now I'm going to show you how to make the hem part. So for the hem part, just insert your yarn here in the corner and then make a chains. It depends how long you would like to make your ribbing. So for me, I'm going to chain 9. So I'm going to have 8 stitches. So in my second chain from the hook, I'm going to make single crochet. So in my ribbing here in the hem part, I'm going to make a single crochet into the back loop. So not slip stitch into the back loop because I want my hem part the same wide as my panel. So if I make a slip stitch into the back loop, it's going to be tight at the edge or here at the lower part in my hem, but I don't like it, so I want my ribbing here the same wide as my panel. But if you would like to do the same with the slip stitch into the back loop to make your hem part, you can do that, okay? But for me, I want it to make single crochet into the back loop. Okay, so slip stitch here into your next stitch, then slip stitch once more into the next, and then turn, and then make your single crochet into the back loop into all the stitches again. So make sure you're going to start into the first stitch, okay, not into the slip stitch. And you can count your stitches if it's the same to be sure. So I have a total of 8 single crochet into the back loop. Then just chain 1 and turn, and then single crochet into the back loop again. Okay, and then just slip stitch into the next stitch, then again into the next stitch, slip stitch once more, then turn, then do your single crochet into the back loop. Okay, so just continue like this all the way around into the hem part to make our ribbing. So I made it a bit bigger than my allowance, so this is 2 inches now to make the ribbing. Okay, so I'm going to continue doing this, and then after we're done here, I'm going to show you how to do the neckline. For the neckline, I'm still deciding if I'm going to do the same like the slip stitch into the back loop or single crochet. So I'm going to tell you later, okay? So I'm going to finish first the hem. Alright, so I'm done the ribbing. So this is how it look like, my hem. So I'm going to show you now how to do the neckline border. For the neckline border, I'm going to make the same like the slip stitch into the back loop. But if you prefer to make also the single crochet into the back loop, you can do that, okay? But for me, I want the neckline a bit close. So here I'm going to chain 9. So into the second chain from the hook, just slip stitch, then just slip stitch into the next little space. So here there isn't clear stitches on the side of the neckline, this side of the rows, so you can just see where to put your slip stitch. You can see the distance if it's too close or too wide when you do the slip stitching, okay? So here there is stitches, so what you can do here is you can put one slip stitch here and only one slip stitch in this chain 2 space and one on the top of the double crochet together, okay? So only one in this chain 2 space, so it will not very wide your slip stitch, but you can see that when you are doing your slip stitch, okay? So it's the same, just slip stitch into the back loop. So make sure you count your stitches to be sure you have the same stitches when you do your rows, okay? Then again here, just make chain 1 and then turn. So chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, okay? And then into your first stitch or your last slip stitch here, just slip stitch into the back loop. Alright, so you do that all the way around into the neckline, and then when you are done, just slip stitch or fasten up your yarn and then weave all your ends, and that's it. We are done with our sweater, okay? Okay, so continue doing the slip stitch all the way around, or if you are doing the single crochet into the back loop to finish the neckline border. So I'm going to finish mine, then I'm going to weave all my ends and we are done, okay? So this is how it look like, my neckline border. Just weave all your ends and we are done with our sweater. Hope you enjoy making this sweater, and please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and you can tag me in my Instagram at Crochet by Beb. And thank you so much for joining me, and happy crochet everyone. Bye!